Okay, here we are back in Content Builder, and this is the template that we started to create. We're going to continue on that. I'm going to click that. I'm going to click to edit. So we made a number of changes to the design settings for this template. We changed the template styles, the body styles, the heading styles. Now we need to change the link styles and the button styles. So let's go to links first. The default link color is this gray color, and the text decoration is set to none by default. If we click on this, let's select this first bit of text here, and I'm going to use the link button here. And this is the link properties dialog. So for the URL, I'm just going to use a £sign for now. You'll see that the text that I selected is shown here in the link text field. That's fine. Here's the color, and the underline is turned off. You can turn this on and off on a one-off basis, whether you're making a new template or an email, that's fine. You'll see down here that there is a title field and a tracking alias field, and these pick up the same text that's up here. It's the same text. Now, let's just take a look at what that looks like in the HTML. I'm going to format that. So here's the anchor tag, the alias tag, conversion, and data link tags. So these things all have to do with the tracking mechanism that's built into Marketing Cloud. This keeps track of which links are clicked on when you send out an email. So those things are important. We're just going to leave them alone. Then there's the color and text decoration, and then there's this title tag. Now the title tag might be read by screen readers. It depends on the email client or the web browser if you're using webmail. So it might read this, and it will also read this too, the text that's in the anchor tag. So if it reads the same thing twice, it's not very helpful. In fact, this actually hurts accessibility. What we really want to do is not use the title tag at all. It's actually bad practice for accessibility. Let me click done here for a moment. If we go to Email on Acid, their website, emailonacid.com, they have a very good white paper about best practices to make your emails and templates accessible. You go under Resources, click that. There's a whole list of different documents that they have available. Down here, there's accessibility standards. This is very, very good. Click on that, and you sign up for it. You give them your email address, and you submit that, and they will send you a link to download the PDF file. So the PDF file looks like this: Accessibility Standards in Email Marketing. And it goes over a lot of really good stuff. Things that everybody should be doing. Things like color contrast ratios, what the WCAG guidelines are. And let's see. Down here, using alt text, presentation. Let's see, I skipped over it. Okay, here we go. Don't set titles on links. So even though Marketing Cloud automatically fills that in for you, what you need to do is remove the title from your links in the link dialog box. So let's see what you do there. We go back here. Here's our light gray link. We go back here. All you have to do is strike this out. That's it. That's all you have to do. And it will remove the title attribute from the link. If you go back here, you'll see that what it did was it made an empty title tag here, which won't hurt anything. So So the next thing I want to do is I don't like that color. I'm going to make that a more vivid blue color to help it stand out better. Okay, that's much better. And I'm going to select underline as the default. Now again, if you come across a bit of text in your email that you don't want to have underlined by default, you always have the option of turning the underline off. But it's a good idea to keep it on by default in the design settings so that it's there. And in most cases, that's the way you should leave it. You should leave it on in most cases. Okay, so that sets up our link styles. Now what about our button styles? Aha, okay, now we have a whole bunch of different styles here. We have font. I want to make the font Verdana instead of Arial. And that's all the change I'm going to make there right now. Let's just take a look and see what that looks like. If we go back to blocks, here is a button block. A button block is another type of block, so you can't drop a block inside a block. You can only put it on the top or the bottom of another block. So we already have a big text block in here. Let's put it to the bottom. And here it is. And we see that it went to Verdana. And let's make this smaller. I want to use Learn More in uppercase. That looks okay. The background color is not what I want, so I'm going to change that. Now notice that there is a border down here. Microsoft Outlook on Windows must have a border in order for the table to be displayed correctly, and usually you're going to make the border the same color as the background. Okay, you also have the option of rounding the corners. You can do that, or you can remove the rounding completely, which is what I prefer. And then you can change the padding. So right now there's plenty of padding on the top and bottom of our button, but there's not much padding on the sides. So I'm going to increase the padding on the sides. There. And then we have the link. Now, the link URL, I'll just do the same thing. I'll use a pound sign. Again, there's the title field, and we don't want that. The tracking field is also empty here. So you need to fill that in if you want this to be tracked in Marketing Cloud, which ordinarily you do. So you want to put some kind of descriptor in there so that it shows up in your statistics. But the real problem with buttons is the button text you ordinarily want to keep short and sweet, like learn more, but learn more what? It doesn't tell a screen reader what the button is for. If it's a single button and you have a single item that you're talking about, then people can pretty much figure out what the button is for. But if you have more than one button, it can be very confusing as to what the buttons go to. So what can we do to improve the accessibility of this button? Well, there's one thing. Let's go to the HTML view. I'm going to choose Format. And we see that the button is made up of a table, another table. These tables have role presentation. That's also pointed out in the accessibility guidelines white paper that I showed you a moment ago. And then the link inside, here's the Learn More text that's in the link. And here's the empty title tag and the empty alias tag. What you can do, and this requires going into the manual HTML to do, what you can do is add an ARIA label. And then when you go to create an email message based on this template, you would need to go into the HTML editor for the button and fill in the ARIA label with some kind of description, something that would be read aloud by a screen reader. For right now, we can just leave the empty ARIA label tag, and Marketing Cloud will leave it alone. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, you see that because this block is pushing right up against this block, there's no space. All blocks have a little padding and margin control to space them apart. So if we go back here to the button and click on Block Settings, okay, under Block Settings, you see that this block can have its own margin and padding space. So I'm going to add margin space on the top and the bottom. And that'll help push this button away. Now the only other thing that could be improved here is I'm using all uppercase, learn more, and the letters are very close together. When you're using all uppercase, it's actually very helpful to space the letters apart a little bit. There isn't a control for this in Marketing Cloud, but again, I could add this to the HTML of our button. I would go back in here, Format, here's the link, title, alias. Let's see, where did it put the ARIA? Okay, it moved it up here, but that's okay. It's okay if it moves it. Now, up here, there's the font size under Style, font size, the font itself, the color, and so on. And let's see, border radius, and the styles end here. So what I'm going to do is add in letter spacing and word spacing. Now, Outlook on Windows won't respect this. It'll just show the button text the way it normally is, close together. But better email clients will show a little extra space between letters this way. So let me just remove it for a second and take a look at the button. There it is without those two styles added. And there it is with those two styles added. So now I've tuned up the appearance of the button a little bit. Now, the way to save all these settings that I just gave to the button is to actually save this block as one of my saved blocks. So let me click on this one more time. And you see that here at the bottom on the left, there's Save Block. So I click this. Since we haven't saved this before, it will give me Create New. And here it will let me save this as a saved block. So I'm going to make this a More button. Now by default, it'll just drop this at the top of your root directory, which is Content Builder, which is not what we want here. We want to keep it with the template. So I'm going to click Move. I'm going to choose that template folder that we set up before. Click Save. It brings me back here again. Now it's going to go into the Template Demos folder. And I'm going to click Save. Now we made these last adjustments to the button directly in the button block, and we saved the button block. If we go back to the design settings, the only change that's reflected here is that very first change that we made, the font. Everything else stays at the default. Okay, so if we come along tomorrow and work on our email message based on this template, and we go to blocks and we use this default button, we're going to get those default styles here. We're not going to get the refinements that we made to our new button. So my suggestion is that you do set up buttons that are particular to an email template that you're going to be using. You save those buttons, and then you always use the save buttons, not the default button. Let me delete this. Not the default button that's in the basic content blocks over here under blocks. So instead, what you want to do is go over to content, and at the top of content, here is our more button. Now it's showing you all of the saved content that's in our root directory. To filter that down to just our template demos folder, we would click on folders and go to template demos. And right now we only have this one piece of saved content in that folder. So here it is, and we can drag and drop this in, just like using the default button here under blocks. You just drag and drop it in. Now this one has all of the same attributes that we saved to this button. And that way we can keep a very consistent look and feel to all of our buttons that are used in this email. And when we do create an email from this template, and we do want to add an ARIA label tag, we can go to our HTML editor. We can find the empty ARIA label, which is right here, and we can fill that in with a descriptive sentence that the screen reader can read aloud to the user. So this is the more complete way to handle your buttons. Now, we've saved this piece of content. We haven't saved this yet, and we have a link here that we've added. So let's save this piece of content as well. I'm going to click in on this. Saving content is a matter of saving a block. So when you open a block for editing, you'll always get this Save Block button down here in the lower left. So I'm going to create a new block, and I'm going to call this text full block. And again, it's going to default to my parent directory, which I don't want. So I'm going to click Move, click the folder that I want, hit Save. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to save it in default demos. Click OK. Now you notice that when you're looking at it in this view, you don't see all of the text formatting. You do see the heading font and color, and that is because only the heading fonts have inline styles written on them. Because the body text does not have inline styles written on it, it doesn't show any styling here when you're saving this block. So it looks like this. And now we're going to click Save. Okay. Now, a lot of times we might want to have a little short closing sentence down here underneath our button. So let me drag and drop in a new text block underneath this. And let me go back to my text here, and I have a slightly longer slug of lorem ipsum. Let me go back here. I'm going to drop this in. And here's our slightly longer bit of lorem ipsum. I'll click this, and I'll save this as another text block that we can use. So I'll save this as text slug block. Okay, I'm going to move this again. This goes back to template demos. And click complete. Okay, so now we have a good start on our template. We've set up our basic styles. If you wanted to, you could go back in here and make these the same settings as the button block. I don't see the need to. As long as you always pull from your save button blocks, you'll get a consistent look here. So I'm just going to leave this alone. I am going to use the link styles here. We'll be using those throughout. All of the heading styles stay, these stay. And as I mentioned before, we're not going to rely on using these mobile styles that are here in the design settings at all. We're going to leave that alone. So now we have a very simple template. We have 3 blocks in it. We have this text block, a button, and another text block down here. And right now we just have the 1 column. And that's a good start on our template. Okay, now we're going to make one last change to our template before we save it. If we go to the code view and we look down here, the table structure that makes up the shell template page, these table tags do not have role presentation on them. They do in the wrapper tables that hold our content blocks. However, they don't on the template tables. So we're going to add them manually. This is one of the things that's mentioned in the Accessibility Standards white paper from Email on Acid. Table tags should always have role presentation on them. So we're going to add that now. There are actually 7 tables here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we've added role presentation to our tables, and now we're ready to save our email template. And if I go back out, here's what we have so far. We have our template that we've saved, our text slug, and our text full block, and our button block. Now if you wanted to, you could make subfolders in here. You would just right click, create folder, and let's say blocks. You could say blocks. If we spin this little arrow open here, now we have a little arrow because we have a subdirectory within this directory. And we can select these, and we could move these into blocks. So under actions, we can say move, and we can go here, and let's save these under blocks. Okay, so in the template demos folder, we only have the 1 template showing, and now we can click into blocks, and there are our 3 save blocks. So that's how we're going to leave it for now, and we'll do some more interesting things in the next video.